Welcome to the Central Bank of Kuwait's podcast, where the objective is to raise awareness to key economic concepts and developments which affect the lives of individuals and the society as a whole. I'm Dalal Al-Mulla from the Central Bank of Kuwait. With us today on today's podcast is Sheikha Al-Rumi from the Supervision Department at the Central Bank of Kuwait. She will shed light on sustainable development and green financing. Welcome, Sheikha, and thank you for being with us and the listeners today.
Thank you, Dalal, for having me. I would like to welcome all the listeners of Central Bank of Kuwait's podcast.
So first of all, and to start with, the concept of sustainable development has recently received global attention. So what is sustainable development?
To start, the word development means progress and improvement, while the word sustainability means continuity and stability. So we can define sustainable development as the improvement and the utilization of our limited natural resources and their transformation into a productive and permanent resources in order to meet today's needs without negatively affecting the needs of the future generations. As you know, Dalal, today the world is facing challenges related to climate change that affect our lives significantly. Statistics indicates that the damage caused by natural disasters has multiplied during the past 3 decades. So many parties, including governments, regulatory authorities, and other international organizations, have been interested in supporting sustainable development and limiting the risks of climate change.
You mentioned in your explanation natural disasters and climate change risks. Could you please elaborate with examples of these, please?
Sure, Dalal. As a result of carbon emissions, there have been many climate disturbances that led to a noticeable and unusual rise in temperatures, as well as floods, earthquakes, melting ice, and rising sea level. These disturbances have caused not only material, but also human losses. Therefore, it's extremely important that we build a sustainable green economy to mitigate these emissions and their consequences. One of the main tools that can assist us in the financial and economic sector is sustainable financing, or known as green financing.
Yes, actually, lately we've heard a lot about the term sustainable finance, or also known as green finance. Can you explain this term, perhaps in a more simpler way to the listeners, please?
Indeed, simply sustainable or green financing is granting loans for projects that aim to protect environment, reduce pollution and waste, and preserve natural resources. Examples include projects in the field of agriculture, waste recycling, and energy development projects, such as electric power plants that rely on solar and wind energy. And by the way, there are many other advantages of sustainable finance, such as maintaining long-term financial stability and increasing investment opportunities by attracting a new category of investors who are interested in sustainable projects. Actually, nowadays, we have witnessed a rapid growth in green financial products in the international markets. Examples of these products are green bonds or green sukuk, green loans, green investment funds, and many other innovative instruments that have a positive impact on the environment.
Since you mentioned that there is a global trend towards sustainable finance and sustainable development, can you clarify the role that's played by the governments and the global organizations in this area?
Sure. Globally speaking, the number of initiatives launched by international organizations has increased in order to encourage commitment to reduce emissions and create more sustainable future. Examples of these initiatives would be the 2015 Paris Agreement and the United Nations Framework, to which Kuwait was one of the first countries to sign. On the country level, Kuwait has undertaken multiple initiatives, including the signing of Gulf, regional, and international agreements. Also, the government has set a clear plan for sustainable growth through the new Kuwait Vision for 2035. The new vision includes a long-term development plan, aiming to build a more prosperous and sustainable future, and to, of course, transform Kuwait to an attractive financial and commercial center.
So since the Kuwaiti government has developed a plan for sustainable growth in New Kuwait's vision for 2035, what is the contribution of the Central Bank of Kuwait in this regard? As you know, it's known to be one of the most important supervisory entities in the country.
Allow me, Dalal, first to highlight that all CBK's initiatives are in line with the new Kuwait vision for 2035. In this regard, we have several initiatives aiming at building a regulatory environment that supports sustainable economic growth. I would like to brief you and the listeners on some of our initiatives to promote and implement sustainability. First, in November 2022, CBK issued guidelines for banks on sustainable financing that are in line with the guidelines issued by the Bank of International Settlements, or known as the BIS. The BIS is an international institution that provides central banks and other regulatory authorities around the world with the best policies and standards recommendations in order to support them to pursue monetary and financial stability. Our guidelines at CBK cover the importance of sustainable finance and define the 3 sustainability criteria, or so-called ESG: environmental, social, governance. These 3 criteria are used to evaluate and measure sustainability when making any decision, whether it is an investment or financing decision. How we assess these criteria? Now allow me to briefly explain that. The first criteria is the environmental criteria, which are external factors that can directly affect the company's operation. However, these factors are not affected by the market mechanism or the supply and demand of the market. The environmental factors are measured by the impact of the environment on the company's operations and vice versa, the impact of the operations on the environment. For example, climate change, waste, pollution, and natural resources depletion. So the second criteria is the social criteria, which are related to job creation, equal pay, employees' welfare, and consumer protection. Lastly, the governance criteria, which are related to the rights and responsibilities of the board of directors and executive management, and other governance aspects such as remuneration policy, anti-corruption, conflict of interest, and transparency. In addition, our guidelines included many other directives that banks should consider, such as first, issuing sustainable financial product, secondly, encouraging financing projects that contribute positively to the environment, thirdly, applying sustainability within the bank's internal operations, such as adopting environmentally friendly buildings that reduce electricity consumption. Lastly, these guidelines also direct banks to measure climate change risks and to issue annual reports on sustainability. Also, Dalal, I would like to add that CBK encourages innovative fintech products and services that support sustainability by giving them priority for testing their products and services within CBK's secure virtual environment before launching them to the market without exposing the financial and the banking system to any risk. Internally, CBK has taken several steps towards achieving sustainability through capacity building, continuous communication with stakeholders, and creating a specialized internal team to follow up, of course, on climate change and sustainable finance guidelines. Finally, allow me to emphasize that all our initiatives are supportive to the government efforts in achieving the objectives of the new Kuwait Vision 2035.
Now that you gave us an overview of the Kuwaiti government and the Central Bank of Kuwait's initiatives in promoting sustainability and green finance, what about local banks? What are their contributions in this regard?
Yes, as you and the listeners know, that the financial and the banking sector plays a vital role in supporting sustainability. There have been several notable efforts by many local banks, for example, by embedding ESG criteria in their strategies and by promoting the sustainability culture, and also by issuing annual sustainable reports. To conclude, Dalal, I would like to emphasize that CBK continues to follow up on the reports and the performance of the banks and other regulated entities with respect to sustainability and climate change. We also encourage their initiatives and contributions in order to unify efforts towards achieving sustainable economic growth in Kuwait.
Many thanks to Sheikh Al-Rumi for joining us today. This brings us to the end of our podcast. Thanks for listening.